I am A.J. Simmons, a community psychologist and agriculturalist. But most folks around Charlotte know me as a community guy, engaged in the art, science, and practice of growing food. During our time together, I would like for you to consider what you've eaten today and who grew it. One of the primary unifiers of the human experience is that we all must eat, oftentimes every day. Show of hands, who ate today? Exactly. Exactly. My family has been engaged in agriculture for centuries. From my distant yam and bean growing ancestors on the West African forest savanna complex to those closer in time and space, both enslaved and freely farming here in North Carolina, to my sharecropping great-grandparents and my father who grew up taking crops to market, we produce food. Now, I would like for you to envision an empty lot in your city. This is a space that most people walk by. It's long been abandoned and overgrown with weeds. It's a space that people hardly give a second look. But now just picture the same empty lot with children laughing as they water seedlings, rows of fresh vegetables and fragrant herbs. Community members use the space to convene. Neighbors, once strangers, work shoulder to shoulder with their hands in the soil. This is not just a garden. This is humanity. This is spiritual. This is political. What if I told you that growing food together can transform the way that we live together? Well, that's the force behind food sovereignty. And since our ancestors first began cultivating over 12,000 years ago, it's not simply been about farming. It's about harvesting competence, harvesting community, and harvesting power. La Via Campesina tells us that food sovereignty begins when everyday local citizens have a hand in the production, manufacture, distribution, and sales of food, not simply consumption. So what is food sovereignty? At its simplest, it's locally based, community-driven production, processing, and purchasing. It's making sure that everyday community members have a hand in the growth of food in their environments. This means community gardens, urban farms, community-supported agriculture, and farmers markets. These are not just food systems. These are community throughways, places where people come together to support each other and take care of one another. The first president of Burkina Faso, Dr. Thomas Sankara, tells us, "He who feeds you controls you. He who feeds you controls you." We are aware of the health and wellness concerns associated with large-scale industrial farming that involve pesticides, herbicides, preservatives, and unfounded genetic modification. We're also aware of the tremendous energy and waste strain associated with these types of farming. Through the regenerative agricultural practices that Dr. George Washington Carver applied to save U.S. agriculture, we learned to introduce crop rotations and symbiotic flora-fauna relationships. Understand, Dr. Carver was born enslaved in a hyper-agrarian economy that sought to farm nitrogen-depleting cotton season after season after season after season after season after season after season in the name of growth and profit at the expense of people laboring, animals living, and land thriving. Dr. Carver used millennia-old insights passed to him from his own ancestors to use nitrogen-fixing crops such as sweet potatoes and soybeans to restore the soil. Coincidentally, today, soybeans and sweet potatoes are two of North Carolina's largest produced crops. And in fact, North Carolina leads the country in sweet potato production. And here's the bigger truth. Food systems are political. They always have been. Who owns the land? Who benefits from agricultural labor? Who has access to healthy food? These power dynamics determine our political reality. He who feeds you controls you. Currently, our landscape is dominated by massive industrialized farm operations. These intense farm operations require an amazingly high amount of resources and scale, including water, to produce, manufacture, distribute, and sell food products. These systems have to be addressed. And in many ways, communities can come together to make an impact. The USDA recently reported that about 16 cents of every dollar that you spend goes to the farms and the growers of your food. What that means is that around 84 cents of every dollar you spend on food goes to advertising, wholesale, retail, and other cogs of a large industrial system, rather than to the growers. This is a legacy that's associated with large plantation economies that established agribusiness in the U.S. colonies. Unfair, unjust, and unreconciled. Depending on the labor and the efforts of others who were not able to benefit. The good news is food sovereignty aims to shift that power and put it back into the hands of the people. It reminds us that civic action is not simply something that happens in the ballot boxes or in City Hall. It's something that happens when we come together around a table, redistribute resources, and figure out how we're going to sustain ourselves and each other. He who feeds you controls you. All across the country and all across the world, food sovereignty is transforming communities. Let me give you a few examples here in Charlotte. In 2009, a local mentoring organization called the Mel's Place decided to partner with Mecklenburg County Parks and Recreation to utilize public land to teach young men how to grow food. And at first, it was simply about growing food. But before long, it became something more. Before long, we realized that as community members came and they received their culturally and seasonally appropriate food, they learned about other aspects of the Mel's Place programming and began to sow into those areas. And I was able to uncover through my work, through my research into positive youth development and socio-political development, that the young men of the Mel's Place grew in more ways than just food production. They grew in their competence, in their confidence, in their character, in their caring, and their connection as they contributed to their greater communities. This helped to equip them with a heightened critical consciousness and a purpose on this planet. Elsewhere in West Charlotte, an urban farm emerged in the middle of a neighborhood long devalued and divested. Young people were hired taught how to grow food, how to sell at markets, how to run a business through the Seeds for Change program with West Boulevard Urban Farm. And I was able to contribute firsthand as farm coordinator to the development of these young people. Today, that farm still provides skills, jobs, and pride, but it also provides possibility, proof that everyday residents can come together with institutional support and be the change that they want to see. And now, the Three Sisters Cooperative Market is set to open on that property and serve community members with fresh grown produce from on site. He who feeds you controls you. So, why food sovereignty? First, it's accessible. You don't need to be a politician or an academic or an activist to grow food. You simply need a plot of soil or even a grower's bag and a willingness to start. Second, it builds trust. When we work side by side in the soil, we talk, we laugh, we listen. Differences begin to dissolve. Strangers become neighbors, and neighbors become friends. Third, it builds agency. We shift from being passive recipients of decisions made for us to active participants in reshaping our communities. So let's revisit that empty lot I asked you to envision earlier. You could see only what's missing, or you could see its potential. You could see it as a place where new relationships might grow, where dignity might be restored, and where justice might take root. We have the opportunity to use agriculture to define culture. We can stimulate local economies, rearrange systems, and build collective identity. We can uncover long-lost family growing traditions. We can demand that our local and state governments prioritize local cultural systems over corporate streamlining. Because the truth is, we all have these empty lots in our lives, spaces waiting to be transformed. They may not be literal gardens. They may be classrooms or organizations or even conversations waiting to happen. So, my challenge to you is to grow something together, pamoja. Because when we plant seeds together, we do not just harvest food. We harvest community. We harvest power and the possibility of a more just and connected world. What seeds will you plant? Not just in soil, but in community. Asante Sana, thank you very much.